Incredible footage has emerged of a Ukrainian drone dodging a Russian missile before destroying an armored vehicle. The video, which was filmed on June 12, 2023, shows a Ukrainian drone flying low over a field in eastern Ukraine. As the drone approaches a Russian armored vehicle, a Russian missile is fired at it. The drone operator quickly reacts and swerves the drone out of the way of the missile. The missile then misses the drone and explodes on the ground. The drone continues to fly and eventually destroys the Russian armored vehicle with a missile of its own. Ukrainian troops vowed to recapture 2 towns in the Donetsk region in a days-old counteroffensive to push Russian forces out of the country to gather strength. According to military bloggers, Ukrainian forces are currently attacking Makarivka and Urohyne, the next 2 villages to the south, along a road that eventually leads to the outskirts of Mariupol, 130 kilometers away. However, Ukrainian troops moving there apparently still failed to reach the heavily defended Russian lines, which were located about 10 kilometers south of the ongoing fighting. Russia, as far as it matters for its, has guaranteed that it has repulsed Ukrainian assaults, as of late posting photographs of obliterated reinforced vehicles NATO had given to Ukraine. On June 10, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskiy recognized that the long-expected counteroffensive had started. Zelenskyy stated, "Counteroffensive and defensive actions are taking place in Ukraine, but I will not say in detail where they are at. Ukraine's current counteroffensive, according to military experts, will be much more difficult than last year's because Russia has had months to construct extensive defensive fortifications." Since the beginning of the counteroffensive, there have been numerous reports of heavy casualties on both sides. Numerous analysts have speculated that Ukraine will attempt to cut off and encircle Russian forces to the west by moving southeast toward Mariupol, an industrial city on the Sea of Azov. Along the 1,000-kilometer front, Ukraine's counteroffensive is taking place in multiple directions. The Ukrainian military detailed weighty battling in Donetsk and Luhansk districts in their June 11 update. Zelenskyy said there was likewise weighty battling on the southern fronts. The counteroffensive was disrupted by the June 6 explosion at the Russian-controlled Kakhovka Dam on the Dnieper River. Moscow has been accused by Kiev of mining the dam and deliberately destroying it in order to flood the Kherson region in the south and hinder its counteroffensive. On June 11, Deputy Minister of Defense of Ukraine Hanna Maliar stated in a Telegram post, "The explosion of the Kakhovka hydroelectric power station was apparently carried out with the intention of preventing the Ukrainian defense forces from launching an offensive in the Kherson sector." The accusations have been categorically denied by Russia, which took control of the dam shortly after its massive invasion of Ukraine in February 2022. Ukraine recaptured the city of Kherson on the west bank of the Dnieper waterway last year and recently led a reconnaissance mission on the Russian-bound east bank. Maliar went on to say that the dam's destruction was also meant to make it possible for Russian reserves in the area to be used to reinforce Zaporizhia and Bakhmut, the Donetsk city that was the center of the war for most of 2023. A Ukrainian military representative said on June 10 that Ukrainian powers had progressed in excess of a kilometer at various focuses along the bleeding edge close to Bakhmut. Even though Russia's private Wagner mercenary group took control of most of Bakhmut last month, Kiev claims that fighting is still going on and denies that Russian forces are in complete control of the city. The Washington-based Foundation for the Investigation of War has said that the Ukrainian military seemed to have additionally made a few increases in their hostel in the Zaporizhia district in the south. According to reports, the Russian military was able to repel attacks in both locations in recent days. Video footage showing what the Russian Defense Ministry claims to be numerous strikes on Ukrainian armored vehicles and tanks, including German Leopard 2 tanks and American Bradley fighting vehicles, has been released. On June 11th, Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu presented medals to soldiers it claimed had destroyed the donated foreign weapons to Kiev. On June 10th, a UN official issued a warning about the devastating humanitarian effects of the dam breach and subsequent flooding. The crisis will likely result in lower grain exports, higher food prices around the world, and less food for millions of people in need. UN Undersecretary General Martin Griffiths stated to the Associated Press. He also stated that an extraordinary 700,000 people need to have access to drinking water. Truly, this is just the start of seeing the outcomes of this demonstration, Griffiths said. In an intelligence assessment released on June 11th, the British Defence Ministry stated that the dam's destruction has almost certainly severely disrupted the primary source of fresh water for the Crimean Peninsula in Ukraine, which Russia illegally annexed in 2014. Water at the dam's repository had likely dipped under the delta that feeds water to the channel conveying water to the promontory. As indicated by the evaluation, water is supposed to quit streaming in the trench subsequently, lessening the accessibility of new water in the south of the Kherson district and in northern Crimea. The English Safeguard Service said that it anticipated that the Russian specialists should meet regular people's water needs by utilizing repositories, water proportioning, penetrating new wells, and filtered water. It stated that communities on both sides of the Dnieper face a crisis in sanitation, limited access to clean water, and an increased risk of waterborne diseases. The Ukrainian Interior Ministry reported on June 11th that 35 people, including 7 children, remain unaccounted for in the Kherson region. The floods have resulted in the deaths of 5 people in Kherson and 1 person in Mykolaiv. According to the authorities in Ukraine, 32 towns and villages on the west bank of the Dnieper that are under the control of Ukrainian forces are still submerged. On the eastern bank of the river, which is more susceptible to flooding, evacuation efforts were also reported. During the rescue efforts, each side has accused the other of shelling civilians. The General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine reported on June 12, 2023, that Russia had lost over 30,000 soldiers since the start of the invasion on February 24, 2022. The report also stated that Russia had lost over 1,300 tanks, 2,200 armored fighting vehicles, 200 aircraft, and 170 helicopters. The report did not provide any information on the number of Ukrainian soldiers who had been killed or wounded. Ukraine's military said on Sunday that it had recaptured 3 villages from Russian forces in the southeastern Zaporizhia region. The villages are Blahoden, Neskiny, and Makarivka. The recapture of these villages is the first major Ukrainian gain since it launched a counteroffensive in the south last week. The counteroffensive is aimed at pushing Russian forces back from the Black Sea coast and liberating the southern Ukrainian city of Kherson. The Ukrainian military said that its forces had advanced between 300 and 1,500 meters, 985 and 4,920 feet, along 2 directions on the southern front. The military also said that it had destroyed a Russian ammunition depot in the Donetsk region. Russia's defense ministry has not confirmed the loss of the 3 villages. The ministry said that it had repelled 3 Ukrainian attacks in the Zaporizhia region and shot down a Ukrainian Su-25 fighter jet.